Hello there, folks, and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka That Tellest Guy, and we are going to be making some maps today. Real quick, what we're probably going to do is spend a little bit of time finishing up our look at the Cupid's Maze that we were working on last week. Technically, it was done over the weekend, but not everybody got to see it, so we're going to take a real quick look at that and just kind of figure out what we like about it, what we don't like about it, that kind of thing. Let me see. Give me 1 second. I feel like I'm missing something on my stream deck, and it's important, and I can't find it. Why can't I find you? There we go. All right, I got everything I need now. So, as you know, last week, well, the previous week, I had spent a lot of time making what at the time was the busiest map I think that we had ever made, because Hidden Harbors tavern map also has a warehouse in it, and we spent a lot of time painstakingly putting together shelves that were on 3 different layers so that we could have pieces of those shelves showing different items, and we ended up doing something like 800 objects or something along those lines. Now, this is 3 maps, so it's not quite in that same vein, but right now you'll see we've got 578 objects that are being shown over here. That's, again, a little disingenuous because we have 2,589 stamps just encompassing the vines, just encompassing the hedges themselves of this maze. So there is a lot going on. Again, that just counts for the pieces of the hedge maze itself. That doesn't count the trees, the rocks, the kind of like border fence that we have, the cliffs, all the items inside the maze. There is a lot going on here, and kind of in celebrating that, we've got a lot of variants to this map that are coming. We obviously made this kind of based on Valentine's because we wanted to take advantage of those stamps. So we have a lot of those kind of things. We've got, the little lollipops that we kind of put together as markers for the start of the maze. We've got the little gelatinous cube shaped like a heart. We've got the heart trees. We've got the crystal hearts here and there. We've got a lot going on that's Valentine's themed, but not everybody wants to throw a Valentine's themed D&D session. So we've also off stream worked on a just plain forest version of this map. So we trade the kind of pinkish color of the vines to a more kind of vibrant green, just a verdant color that doesn't quite look like this. We changed the grass to be a little less fey and a little bit more natural, and we're also working on a version of that standard kind of look that has the maze is separated into 3 pieces. We're going to have that anyway, but they kind of interconnect because the intention is that you're able to kind of lay them down, one on top of the other. So you're supposed to have 3 from north to south. But we wanted to make sure that there was something that we could do so that the player, or rather the game master, if they didn't want to do a towering maze that's, 60 tiles tall and ends up being 300 feet long that a party has to go through, they don't have to do that, so they could do something a little bit less robust. So we have that for them, and then we're also, at Matt's request, making a version of the maze that's going to exist in the Everdark for the Tellest universe. So we traded the grass for kind of like a stone dungeon-y feel. And we're working on kind of tweaking that to make that look pretty good. I was trying to see if I could make like an upside down, like in Stranger Things, and make, like dark kind of gross grass and everything like that. And I didn't see anything that I really liked. So we're just putting it in the Everdark. I feel like it can still look pretty cool there, and we can do some fun stuff with like the corrupt ground that we've played with before. So that should be fun. I don't know that everything is going to be ready for Thursday for a release, because at this point I think we're looking at probably like 20 maps being released on the Patreon, but we'll get there. We're certainly going to spend some time and get to that point. I figured what we could do before we get to our jungle section of tonight's show is go through the stuff that we added to this map. There's a lot of things that are going on, and only some of them ended up being done on the stream. So let's take a little journey through our maze. We're going to go through the hedges because I don't have time to go and figure out the actual way to get to everything, but we're just going to kind of bounce from corner to corner, I think. So what we'll do is we'll start here. Now, we had this kind of room here, and I didn't really know what to do at first, and I figured Alice in Wonderland has kind of like a funny kind of feel to it when you think of like mazes and things like that. And one of my favorite Zelda games is the Minish Cap. So if you can, you're not going to really be able to tell in high definition or on low definition too well, but we've got a pretty big mushroom here where if the adventurers get a sense to try and eat a piece of this mushroom, they'll shrink down. They can end up going between these two rocks, and then all of these here, they're actually huts and little fairy houses and things like that. So I was kind of inspired by the Minish Cap, and I was also inspired by, we have a excuse me, a place in the Tellest universe where a wizard ended up disguising his mansion inside a tree that's an illusory tree, and shrunk it down, and all the villagers from the nearby town, when it got attacked, ended up fleeing to his mansion to live there, and it's become a very quirky kind of town in the Tellest universe. So that's a fun little thing that we can do there. This was one of the very first things that we had, was this kind of one of those things that you see in like a lot of mysteries and things like that, where all of a sudden the fireplace spins or something like that. So we have these statues that can spin. So it's not a huge detour or anything, but it is kind of a fun little thing for players to do, where they can stand on this pedestal or this platform and then it spins them to the other side. So if you have something like a monster chasing your adventurers through the maze and they know that something like this exists, it can really do some fun things with tactics. So once I was thinking about a maze, this was one of the very first things that I was thinking of. We've also got the Shrine of the Fairy King. Very good chance that if you're following some kind of lore of the Tellest universe and of this map, that there's probably a fairy king in here, and this statue is based on him. So this statue, you could either pray to it and get a buff, or maybe there's something secret about it that you could kind of unleash on your adventurers. Moving over to the other side, this kind of tree really didn't serve much of a function except to show the players what you could try and do to help get this goblin out, or whoever it is. I kind of think it looks like Shrek. But anyway, we've got like a withered tree with a branch that's here, and I wanted to give the players, in my mind, the opportunity to grab that branch to try and see if they could pull the goblin, the thief, whoever it is, out of that gelatinous heart, only to find that the gelatinous heart yanks that stick in, and they have to figure out some better way to free this captive from this trap. And we'll figure out as we kind of move along what the trick is there. So next we have a treasure opportunity in the maze, and we've got this very pretty phosphorus tree from the Fae set, and we've got what looks to be like butterflies and stuff like that, but we've kind of said in the lore of this map that is a silent sprite, and the silent sprites are from one of the Halloween stories that I wrote, where if you make a noise in this area, they will attack you, and there's a good chance that they're going to sew your mouth shut. So fun times there. There's a gate in the maze that is going to require some keys. And I thought it'd be funny to just put together this Fisher-Price looking thing to have, keys that the players can try and liberate from this little piece. And it might be a sort of situation where, like, when they come through here, they get some kind of warning that says, hey, like, only take one key at a time. And if they don't, maybe that's what summons one of the monsters into the maze, something like that. And here is that gate that we were talking about. And again, in high definition, it's a little bit difficult to see, but this is an axe kind of snagged by thorns, so they have to figure out a way to liberate that axe after they get their way through this gate. So we'll move up a little bit. Very faint. Right up here we have like a swirling vortex where if someone does kind of happen to get into this corridor, this starts to kind of suck them in, and if they do end up getting touched by this vortex, it just sends them to the beginning of the maze. Not a huge deal or anything like that, but it can be something that kind of snags the adventurers and gives them a little bit of something to think about. We also have the perfume bottle that's on this table here. It's very close to the center of the maze, so if a player wants to kind of meta their way into this area, they can find the perfume bottle. It's not, strictly speaking, perfume. It is actually something that the players can use to disintegrate that gelatinous heart that we saw in the southeast. So that's just a fun way of having the components of this maze kind of work together to do something fun. We've got a strange discoloration here and in these kind of paths, and this discoloration is actually a carnivorous plant. Right now you can barely see it. It might be a situation where that's another variant that I create, where I make that a little bit more apparent, but I kind of like the idea of it just being subtle and letting the game master do what they need to do to tell that story. But that's for them to decide if I make those things available to them. We've got a vendor spot in the maze, so if the adventurers need any equipment or anything like that that's not already in the maze that the game master wants them to have access to, this is a fun little way to do it. And then you can also see there's these kind of shrubby things over here, and there's a few sparkles that you can see through those shrubby things, and that's a pile of gold that this mad merchant has collected. And if the players want, they can try and see if they can snag that from him. So alrighty, and then we've got this kind of nursery over here, and I was thinking when I was developing this little area, one of these could be a mandragora. So you accidentally wake up this thing and it screams, and not only could it attract the monsters in the area, but technically what you could do is have it kind of work in tandem with the silent sprites. So either that's their key to become one of the wandering sets of monsters, so maybe you have a swarm of silent sprites that start to kind of stalk the players as well, or maybe you take the mandragora and you use that to kind of scare the silent sprites away from this area. Again, it's the idea that I had was trying to make a couple of things that kind of bounced off of each other and gave some good kind of feedback loops where you could do some fun stuff. The main focus of the maze is this statue of Cupid. Doesn't have to be a statue of Cupid in your standard games or anything, although I think the bow does have a kind of Cupid-y look, so it would be a stretch. But in any case, the idea was, Cupid in this universe is kind of like a fae hero. So his equipment would be magical and give certain buffs and things like that. But you'll see we've got the kind of heart streamers here and there, and that's important. Those are there to kind of help the players identify that this statue's more than meets the eye, and if they try to take the quiver or the bow without kind of getting rid of some of the items in this area first, like we've got the heart tree over here, the crystal heart here, and whatever the goblin's got going on in that gelatinous heart down there. That's what kind of deactivates these components and allows the player to get that. Otherwise, some kind of trap can spring and cause some issues. So we do have that heart tree over here. There's something that the players need to do. They have the axe that's down here. That could be something that the game master would like them to do. I'm not going to tell them what they need to do, but they have some options. We've got the crystal heart over here that's embedded in the stone. I think the idea for them is you have to smash this crystal in order to get rid of one of these pieces. Again, this is a huge maze, so I figured it kind of made sense for the players to be able to heal up at least in one place in the maze. So we've got this kind of healing fountain well kind of thing that they can use to take a little bit of a respite. We got Charlie the unicorn over here, who's kind of grazing in this spot of the maze. And the way that I conceptualized it was, you've got the bow, but you need something a little more special to really help it attune. And one of those things that you could use is unicorn hair. So that's what our unicorn's doing here. We've got another little critter here, this phase bunny, who is able to go into these kind of purple spots in this room, and he'll, very Scooby-Doo of him, he'll end up going into like this bush and coming out of this bush. And it might be another kind of, trick. Maybe he's got an item that the players want. Could even be like a key, if the game master wanted to lock this out and make it so that there's another way to get out of this maze instead of just waltzing your way through. Rihanna came up with this really good idea. This is a sphinx, and we kind of colored it to feel a little bit more holiday-esque. So this sphinx is pink, and then because of that, we thought it would be kind of cool if it had some kind of poison elements, if whatever riddles it asks are answered incorrectly. And that's why you've got these kind of gross looking grass bits in this part of the maze. We're nearing the end of our travels. We've got, I think, 2 more little points of interest. We've got over here a really quick room to kind of navigate your way through. There is a golem that will be awakened in this area. Love Sphinx. Love Sphinx. Love Sphinx, baby. Basically, what you have to do with this golem when it awakes is break this crystal. I thought it was to the tune of Love Shack Misery. The trick is really, you can use this pickaxe. So if you have like one member of the party kind of distracting him down here, maybe someone else can sneak by, get the pickaxe, and then use it to hack away at that heart. And then the last bit that we have are these teleporters. They are really just a fireplace that we repurposed to look like dimension doors. So they can go in this area, come out this way, and that's what gets them to a couple of the spots over here that they wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. Really, the only important point of interest over here is Charlie the Unicorn. But again, the game master can throw much more onto this map than what we have. We're just giving them some stuff to play with, and that about wraps up the tour. So let us take a moment to do that thing that I love to do, and gotta have the volume up. You can't do it without the volume. So let's see if this works. Yeah, I was muted. The thing that I have on my Stream Deck doesn't work the way that it used to. There's I think I need a restart on my computer because it's acting flaky. But that's all right. All right, so let's do this. We are going to. You can hear me now, right, Misery? Hello. Woohoo! All right, so what we're going to do is take a little break, go to our sponsor, and then we'll come back on the other side after I've had a few minutes to clear my throat, drink some water, that kind of stuff, and then we'll get into our second half of the show where we take a look at the 4th map in our jungle set, which ought to be a lot of fun because we don't have too many 4th maps just yet. and it's always fun figuring out a way to connect things to zones that already exist. So, see you on the other side of the break. Always hard at work on multiple series, author Aaron Renfro is currently making magic with the penultimate book in his Resonance Cycle series. Night Unleashed sees the Lit RPG series character mainstays coming to terms with the fact that, though they may have supernatural talents, even they can bleed. With the final battle not far off, Renfro puts the pieces into their positions, leaving a promise for readers and fans that what is to come will be nothing short of legendary. If you enjoy lit RPGs and isekai adventures, you'll be fully immersed with the magic and splendor of Night Unleashed, the 6th book in the Resonance Cycle. Check out our promo on the Tellest website this week. Alrighty then. Alright, so let's take a step out of this map. We're not going to save anything because we didn't actually do anything. Just took a little tour, and then what we're going to do is go into our Jungle Northwest. I don't have it named anything else because I don't really have the concept of what it's going to be just yet. We obviously know that we're going to have to give it some love, but I don't know if I'm going to, make it anything specific. But let's take a zoom out real quick and look at the very first map that we did in this zone. So we started this zone with the Jungle Temple, and it was pretty much the first map that I made that had kind of like a concept of here's how you can throw stuff into the background and draw over it. So the stamps in the set of the all the Inkarnate stuff allows you to do some pretty creative things, and I think this was either my second or third map, so there was a lot of opportunities to learn and grow. And I think if it wasn't for this kind of map where I was playing with like the depth, and Matt was doing like an amazing job with his maps early on, and I felt like I was just kind of just doing some basic stuff, and I think this map was really the thing that kind of sealed the deal for me and made me feel like, okay, there's a lot of cool stuff that I can do here. Now let's take another look, and we're going to start to kind of show how this zone has come to be over the past year or so. So the next map that we made after that was the Jungle Fighting Ring. So we've got this guy here that you can see we started to add cliffs and stuff like that, and we took things a step further with the kind of depth and water and stuff that we had there by making this little island that the fighting ring is on kind of descend into the water. So we had a lot more of a concept of depth and everything like that, and it gave us some pretty fun opportunities to tell the story of this map and to expand on what we were learning in the original map. And then what we did after that was we made a camp for the lizard folk, the Lagano, to live in. So here is how everything currently connects. So we've got the Jungle Temple leading into the Jungle Fighting Ring, leading into the Jungle Camp. Now that leaves us with a big problem in this area of the map because there's just nothing going on here yet. But the good news is we do know that the islands are going to kind of have to be cleaned up a little bit, and we know that there's some water features that kind of go through here. So we're at least part of the way there. We know that we need some water flowing up through here, and we need some water flowing up through here, and we know that we need to start to add some land mass. So let's start with that real quick. We'll see what we can do to kind of make this area look the right way, and we're definitely going to have to clean some stuff up as we go. So what we're going to do actually is turn off the fighting ring opacity, because that's going to show us where this area kind of fans out. So again, we know that here is where this island actually kind of ended, and we can see some cliffs down here that kind of broke off. Realistically, there's not too much that we have to do to this island up here, But I am going to do just the tiniest of smidges. Let's change to kind of the smoother kind of feel. And we'll make adjustments as we need to. Same thing over here. We've got an idea of what this looks like, but we do need to kind of clean it up a little bit. Because we do want to keep things consistent. So let's subtract this now. Nope, that was supposed to be a subtract. Again, we only have about there that we know that there's some content. We can actually see that little piece of terrain kind of stop there. So let's come back around here and oh no. Didn't want to make a bookmark, but I suppose I did. Okay. And just a tiny little smidge there. And that kind of makes this area a little bit more narrow, and it lets us play with the water features a bit more. So pretty happy with the way that looks. And then what we have is over here, we've got more land mass. So let's try to start filling this in over here. I kind of want it to push off in this direction, maybe sway back, and then cut back again. So we've got a lot more water over here, and then this is pretty persistent land over here. We're not going to have too much water going on, so let's keep adding over here, and then we'll figure out what the focal point is going to be on this map, because I really don't know just yet. I think we'll start by verifying that the grass types kind of look the way that they should, and I feel like down here it kind of indicates that they're not. Over here things kind of look the way that we would expect them. Let's look at the fighting ring real quick just for some guidance. I think what we're going to end up having to do eventually is kind of recreate the original Jungle Temple map to better reflect the techniques that we've learned. We'll do some kind of refresh, because you can see we got rid of the mask effects for most of these cliffs and everything in our later maps. They just don't look that great, so we'll be able to kind of do some stuff there. So we'll turn this off as we make our cliffs. We're still going to use some techniques that we used in the first map, because certainly that depth that we were talking about before very much helps. And maybe we'll even use some of the water over here to kind of use those techniques. So let's make sure as we do this we're not losing anything. Everything stays pretty similar. My guess is with the water, we didn't really do anything too different. The grass certainly changes. So if we look here, we've got a 50 and a 100. We're gonna go to the foreground, and let's do some testing. So that is the correct size of what we're looking for. Now, that's a little hard because over here there's just that little island, but we can definitely verify over here as we kind of push our way through. Yeah, everything connects exactly the way that you would expect it to. So we're going to fill in our land mass over here. I think one of the problems that we're going to run into, and I'll be able to fix it, on the back end and everything as I kind of tuck into what we've been doing, is a lot of the border over here are these trees. So what I'll have to do is figure out which trees we were using, because there's different stamps in each set, and then we'll have to verify the size and the angle. So we'll have to make sure that that is done the proper way. I feel like a lot of today was taking tours of places, and that's perfectly fine because that gave me the opportunity to kind of think about what we wanted to do with a lot of these places. And I really still don't know what those things are. I'll tell you what, let's take one of these trees and just pop it down. And that way, we've accomplished at least one thing in today's stream. And let's see, what else can we do here? Let's take a look at the forest stuff real quick. See if we have any ideas. I don't actually want to use anything from the jungle set that they came out with yet, because I feel like there's so much to explore in that, and I kind of want to do like a jungle ruins. I don't want this to be one of those things, not with the stuff that we currently have, and I don't want to jump into that set without really playing around and having a lot to play with. Now, the only problem is there's really not a lot to choose from as far as the forest goes. So we did, when it came to working on these other pieces, we used the camp set. We used the orc set, I believe. So we've been playing around a lot with things. So I'll have to figure out like what kind of Logano presence we want to put in here. What do we want them to do? What's the lore behind it and everything like that? And it might be something where it's just a natural facet of this area. It's not anything specifically that they did. They didn't build the temple. They didn't build the jungle fighting ring. Well, I mean, they did. But in this case, they didn't build whatever is here. So I had thought at one point about like making something like snakes or alligators or something. But I don't really like to do something like that that's, anything beyond just flavor. Because a lot of times you might have a game master who has no desire to make something like that happen. So I didn't want this to be like a snake den or anything like that. So we'll have to kind of figure out what we're going to put there. Maybe the stamps from the jungle set, not that we'll use them, but maybe they can give us some kind of inspiration. So let's take a look at that real quick. So we've got a lot of stuff in this set, which kind of makes me laugh because the forest has been around so long. Like you can see they did add the one extra piece to the forest set, which was just like grass lines and stuff like that. So there is definitely, they're not leaving it high and dry, but they are definitely spending a lot more time when they're introducing something new. So it is going to be a lot of fun when we get into kind of like the South American feel of the jungle ruins, because it has a lot more flavor than kind of the basic stuff that we started with these jungle items. And I try to, as soon as they get new stamps, a new set, jump into things and play with it a little bit. This is a lot to play with, so I'm very excited to jump into that. And it might be maybe like 2 or 3 weeks out before we really jump into something like this, because today is definitely going to be this area of the jungle. And then next week is going to be, I believe, a return to the graveyard. That was like the 4th or 5th map that I worked on. So it's a long time coming that we jump back to the graveyard. And then maybe after that, we kind of jump back into things with the actual jungle. And we'll do some ruins or something like that. So the problem with going into my point of interest document is it's on my phone and nobody can see what I'm doing. So I'll read off any of the ones that kind of sound interesting to me, but it might just be that this is the time to call it for today. And we might just close up shop and then come back tomorrow with fresh ideas. So we've already done things like the skeleton tree. We've done a lot of statues. I don't want to do a statue, especially because we have the shrine over here with the bird statue. I don't really want to do that. So we've got, I feel like this is not the place for like a sap tree and bucket or anything like that. We've already done broken bridges in this spot. We've already got traps and things like that. We've got debris in the rivers, or the water in this case. We've got deadly flora. Not necessarily in this map, but I feel like we just did the carnivorous plant. A big beast skeleton. Now they do have a couple of epic stamps. That was a shout out from Misery. So we've got kind of these pirate ones, and then we've got the big dragon one. I don't necessarily want to do a dragon, but maybe what we do is we might be able to explore those techniques that we were just talking about. Now this is just going to be a test, so we're not going to actually commit to this yet, but you never know. So let's flatten this to, I don't think the background's going to work. I don't necessarily know that the foreground is going to work, but we're going to try it. So, if we wanted to, in theory, what we could do, paint over this guy's wings. You can do it, I believe in you. And then we gotta get rid of the horns. And in theory, maybe make it in a bit of a pit, like it was shot out of the sky and crash landed. And we could do that. I don't necessarily know that I want it to be a straight up dragon, because we've done our fair share of dragons, especially over the last couple of maps. And I know people love their dragons and everything like that. But I do want to try and see if we can make it feel a little bit more in theme with the area of Tellest that it's in. So I was thinking like maybe we could do something that makes it look more like an alligator, add more heads and make it, ooh, you know what, Brianna, that's great, that's some good stuff. Let's think about how we pull that off, because all right, so I think we can do this. Good job, Brianna. All right, so what we're gonna do is copy this skeleton, and we need to have the neck kind of go into the same rib cage. Okay, and we'll make this a 3-headed Hydra. Yeah, buddy. So we've got these guys right here. Now the trick is going to be locking the original down and maybe hiding the other one while we're working on the third, because this is going to be a little bit tricky to start. Excuse me. All right, so we can't touch the one, but we can't touch the hidden one either. So what we're going to do, the problem, we're just testing right now. We're definitely going to keep at this, but we're going to figure out how to build around this in order to make it work. We're going to do the same thing that we were just talking about, where we flatten this to the background, or the foreground rather, and we don't need to see any of the rest of the body. So we are going to draw over all the rest of the skeleton except where the head is going into the rib cage. So we don't need any of that. And we don't need, actually, let's do this real quick too. We'll hide the original. that. Because we're not actually doing anything to the original. So we don't have to worry about damaging it. And then we'll bump this back up and see how it looks. Okay, that looks pretty darn good so far. Let's do... I think Rihanna says, another idea before I forget, maybe do the ruins of a tower, like a mage tower that got smashed up and fell down in some conflict. I like that idea, but I don't like it for this area, just because I don't feel like the kind of architecture that Logano would make would be a tower like that. And we have some ruined mage towers and stuff like that in some other areas. I would totally do that in another place, but yes, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Now, one of the things is most of the hydras and stuff that I see, they don't have wings or anything like that. Now, we are going to clean that up. We're going to clean up the tail, so it's not quite as long, because they don't really need that for balance if they've got kind of a lower center of gravity. But what we need to do in order to pull that off is we need to bring this guy back and flatten this one to the background. Definitely going to be a little bit more challenging because there's a lot more to see. So let's see if we can clean some of this guy up. And let's see if we can't get rid of the original guy. Again, don't really have to worry about making a mess of the original, because the original's not being messed with just yet. Okay, and let's bump this guy back up. Looking pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. Again, just doing some testing, so it's a shame when you do something right like this and then you can't even really use it. All right, let's flatten this guy too. And the next step is going to be getting rid of these wings. No wings necessary. It looks fantastic, Rihanna says. Okay, and we got some rocks and stuff over there. And now the next step, I think, is to get rid of the tail. Maybe mess with some other bones to make it look like proper arms instead of wings. So I think maybe if we use that spot right there. That looks pretty good, actually. That way the tail isn't abnormally large or anything like that. It still does look like it kind of terminates into a nice shape over there. Ooh, you know what? Michael knows some tricks. In theory, when it is time to do this again, you could do something like that to make it look like it's cutting off the right way. Again, not going to lose too much sleep over that right now. Let's find some other bones to play with. So we've got pretty human looking bones. They're not going to do quite what I want them to do. Animal bones. Let's see. Got some shark skeletons and whatnot. I wonder if... I mean, the same thing could reasonably be done. You could take these pieces of the dragon skeleton and lay them down over here. It's just, you have to be very careful about how you're building that out. But I very much do agree with you, Rihanna. A Hydra was the perfect thing to add to this part of the jungle. So we just have to figure out how to build the lore in around him. Did the Logano, did they capture it and kill it? Did they, find the skeleton, and is it a kind of icon of reverence to them? Earned my keep this week. Yeah, we basically have to figure out how we're building it out, what we're building it out for, and kind of build the lore around it. But I definitely think that is the focal point. So we're going to rename this. And I hear Rihanna celebrating down there by hacking up her lungs. But at least we have a couple of good things. We have the focal point, and we have the terrain figured out where that's all going to be. So a very good start to this map, and hopefully by tomorrow we have some bright new ideas to kind of follow up with. But we are going to call that for the night. So let's go to our show closing page, and let me cough this out real quick. So, folks, on the screen right now, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest content out on the internet. Most notably, you can go to Tellest.com to find all the stuff about the book series and a lot of the other projects that we work on, that kind of thing. The two places that you want to go for the Battlemap content. If you want digital goods, you can go to patreon.com/Tellest. That's where on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as we have them available, we release new map content, whether that's these new maps in high res and with pretty awesome variants, or point of interest documents, or whatever we're working on at that time. And we also do art posts as we get them as well, so that could be a fun little distraction as well. But Etsy, our Tellest.etsy.com link that you can see in the bottom right here, that'll bring you to our Etsy store, where we have, I think, 29 of our maps currently on these beautiful giant jumbo mouse pads that are about 20 by 40 inches. You can grab a couple of them, lay them down right next to each other. It especially works great when you have something like this where you have multiple maps in the same zone. They look great. We also have in the Etsy store posters and bookmarks and stickers and the Tellest art book, and I don't think we have it there yet, but we really need to get it up there. The children's book, all that great stuff. And we've also got Rihanna, who needs a shout out for all the help she did today. She's got her Weird Witch wands, which are her one-of-a-kind handcrafted magic wands. That's on the Etsy shop as well. And you can also see kind of her little promo videos for all those things on her TikTok channel, tiktok.com/@weirdwitchwands. And we've got a second TikTok channel, tiktok.com/@talesoftellest, which is where you can see our little poochies making menaces of themselves all over the place. The last two places that I want to bring your attention to, youtube.com/@worldoftellest is one of the first places that you should look if you want to see the hundreds of videos that we've done previous to this, where you can see a lot of the other maps that we've worked on, where you can see our Talking Tellest playlist, all that kind of stuff. But if you want to see these things live with us, the only place to do that is here on Twitch, twitch.tv/thattellestguy. So that's a great place to start off, especially if you want to chat with us and throw some good ideas in the mix, things along those lines. But we will be back tomorrow around 7 p.m. to try and see what else we can do with the Jungle Hydra skeleton map, and figure out how to make it pop in some very interesting ways. But that'll be it for tonight. I appreciate everybody for dropping by. I thank you a lot, Rihanna, for giving me some very good ideas to run with, and helping me to kind of figure out what this focal point should be. So that's going to be it for tonight. Again, thank you, and I miss you.